What if the person you overlook every single day is actually the one you should respect the most? Every evening at exactly 5:30, Elena Lowell walked out of the office with her worn leather tote slung over her shoulder. She didn't linger. She didn't chat by the elevators. She headed straight for the corner where the number 16 bus stopped. Her coworkers barely noticed her slip away, or if they did, it was only to exchange a knowing glance. Elena never joined them for after-work drinks, never piled into their cars, never laughed at their inside jokes. Outside, the wind cut through her coat. Some days it was rain. Other days, biting cold. Elena stood at the bus stop anyway, her hands clasped in front of her, quiet, composed, waiting. And almost every day, the same scene played out. A black SUV rolled by. Kevin, the team's self-appointed leader, behind the wheel. Music up. Designer tie loosened. He didn't even look her way. Behind him, Jenna in her sleek sedan. She gave a quick glance, a mix of pity and superiority, then looked away before the light turned green. Others followed. Shiny cars, warm engines, a blur of taillights. And there was Elena, still, waiting. Some of them pitied her. Some mocked her. Most didn't think of her at all. She should really save for a car, Kevin once said in the break room, smirking. I mean, we're not 20 anymore. Laughter followed. A few chuckles, a few nods, but Elena never defended herself. She never explained why she didn't drive. Never told them she'd once had a Mercedes, a driver, and a garage, bigger than their apartments. She let them think what they wanted. And so the bus came. She stepped on, she rode away. Invisible. At least, for now. Inside the office, there was an unspoken hierarchy. Kevin sat at the top of it, not by title, but by presence. Expensive watches. Loud opinions. A car he liked to park where everyone could see it. Around him circled Jenna, Brian, and a few others. They called themselves the crew. Always together. Always on display. Lunches at trendy cafes. Coffee orders that cost more than Elena's whole meal. Designer shoes clicking on the marble floor. They noticed everything about Elena, but never the right things. She was rarely invited. When the crew planned dinners or after-work drinks, the invitations skipped her desk. They laughed loudly, swapped plans in the open, knowing she could hear. Sometimes Kevin would glance at her just long enough to make sure she knew she wasn't included, and when she walked by, she caught fragments of their conversations. She really should save for a car. Soup in a plastic container again. Does she even have a life outside this place? They thought she didn't hear. But she did. Every word. She just never gave them the satisfaction of a reaction. And every evening, when they left the office, the picture repeated. Kevin's SUV glided past the bus stop. Jenna's sedan purred behind. Sometimes they saw Elena standing there, waiting. Sometimes the bus had already taken her away. Either way, they always felt the same. Better than her. Ahead of her. Because in their minds, a car meant success. A flashy bag meant progress. A loud laugh at happy hour meant belonging. And Elena had none of it. They thought she was invisible. But invisibility was exactly what she wanted. By October, the crew had grown restless. The company was buzzing with talk of the annual charity gala. It was the kind of night people posted about for weeks afterward. Tuxedos, gowns, chandeliers. The kind of event where deals were whispered over champagne glasses. For Kevin and his friends, it was a chance to be seen. I'm booking a table at Vance's Tailor tomorrow, he announced one afternoon. Suit's gotta fit like a glove. I already bought my dress, Jenna chimed in, smoothing her glossy hair. It's a limited edition designer piece. Nobody will miss me in that room. Brian grinned. This is networking gold. The CEO himself is supposed to be there. They talked about it constantly. Shoes, hair, car services. Who they'd bump shoulders with, who they might impress. Elena kept her head down. She typed, filed, sipped her tea. She didn't comment on their plans, didn't ask questions. The crew noticed and filled the silence themselves. Bet she won't go, Jenna murmured once, her voice pitched just loud enough to carry. Gala tickets aren't cheap, Brian added, chuckling. Kevin smirked. Yeah, she'll be at her bus stop like always. Soup night. They laughed, not at her directly, but close enough. Their voices rolled across the office like smoke, seeping into her corner whether she wanted it or not. Elena never reacted. Not a flicker, not even when the jokes landed inches from her desk. Only when she was alone did her eyes betray something. Not anger, not shame, just memory. Because Elena had attended more galas than any of them, she had worn gowns stitched in Paris, jewels guarded by private security, and smiled at photographers as flashes burst like fireworks. That was another life. A life under a different name. A life she had chosen to walk away from. At her small apartment that night, Elena hung her coat on the single hook by the door and set her tote on the counter. She heated a pot of soup on the stove, not because she had to, but because she liked the simplicity, the quiet. Her phone buzzed with an email. She opened it slowly. Confirmed. Keynote address, Lowell Foundation Gala. Her fingers hovered on the screen. A soft smile touched her lips. Elena Lowell, the quiet office clerk, was about to step back into the spotlight, and none of them had the faintest idea. Elena Lowell wasn't always the woman waiting at bus stops. She had grown up in old money, the kind where the family estate had portraits older than the nation itself. Summers in Nantucket, boarding schools abroad, a last name that opened doors before she even knocked. At 23, she married Jonathan Ashford, heir to another fortune. It was the kind of wedding that filled society pages. Cathedral ceilings, champagne towers, diamonds that sparkled like frost. Everyone called it a perfect match, and for a while, it looked like it. Until she realized she had been married to a family, not a man. Every detail of her life was dictated. Which charities to support, which friends were appropriate, what to wear, when to smile, when to speak. Her husband's affection was real but shallow, smothered under the weight of his family's expectations. The final crack came when Elena proposed using her inheritance to start her own foundation, a charity to fund education for underprivileged girls. She was told, flatly, that her job was to host luncheons and smile for photographs. So she walked away. Not loudly, not dramatically, just away. She packed 2 suitcases, took her maiden name back, and moved to a city where no one knew her face. Her family was horrified. Jonathan's family was scandalized. But they didn't fight her. The truth was, Elena knew enough secrets and had enough of her own money tucked away to ensure she could not be erased. The foundation became her quiet triumph. It bore her name, but she rarely put her face to it. She let her board handle publicity. She preferred the shadows, content to work in anonymity while others took credit. And the simple life? The bus rides? The modest apartment? Those were choices. She wanted to know who she was without chauffeurs and diamonds, to feel the weight of ordinary days, to prove, perhaps to herself, that she could stand in a room without her last name propping her up. The irony, of course, was that her coworkers mistook it all for failure. They thought she had nothing, when in fact, she had more than she had ever dared to hope for: freedom. Elena Lowell wasn't always the woman waiting at bus stops. She had grown up in old money, the kind where wealth wasn't flaunted but assumed, woven into the air like oxygen. Summers abroad, boarding schools, a last name whispered with respect in the right rooms. At 23, she married Jonathan Ashford, heir to another fortune. Their wedding made the society pages: cathedral ceilings, champagne fountains, diamonds that glittered like frost. To the world, it was perfection. Inside, it was suffocation. At first, Jonathan seemed kind enough. He bought her gifts, took her to galas, kissed her hand when people watched. But when the doors closed, his family's expectations drowned everything. She wasn't Elena anymore, she was Mrs. Ashford. Every decision was made for her. What charities to support, which friends to keep, how to dress, what to say. Her opinions were brushed aside. Her ideas dismissed with a smile. Her quiet refusals labeled as difficult. Jonathan, once affectionate, grew cold. When she pushed back, even gently, his temper surfaced. Never violent, but sharp enough to leave scars. Words that cut deep, silences that lasted days, reminders that she had married into his name, not the other way around. The cracks spread. She found herself staring into mirrors, unrecognizing the polished stranger looking back. Nights stretched sleepless. Days blurred into rehearsed smiles. She felt herself disappearing, piece by piece. The breaking point came quietly. She suggested starting her own foundation, something with her name, her vision, her hands shaping it. A charity for education, for girls like the one she met on rare, unsupervised days, the kind who never saw opportunity. Jonathan's laugh was short, his mother's glare sharper. "Your role is to host luncheons, Elena," she said, "not to play philanthropist. Leave serious work to the men." Something in her snapped. It wasn't just about the foundation. It was about every choice taken from her, every dismissal, every quiet cruelty that told her she was ornamental, not essential. That night, she packed 2 suitcases. The next morning, she walked out. Her family was horrified. Jonathan's family, scandalized. But no one chased her. Perhaps they thought she would come crawling back. Perhaps they believed she had no spine without their money. They were wrong. She took her inheritance, what little was truly hers, and built the Lowell Foundation on her own terms. She moved to a new city, far from familiar faces. No chauffeur, no diamonds, no gilded cage. Just her, learning the rhythm of an ordinary life. The modest apartment, the bus rides, the simple meals. These weren't punishments. They were freedom. Of course, her coworkers couldn't see that. To them, she was the woman with the soup container, the one standing in the rain at the bus stop, the one who didn't belong. They thought she was nothing. They were wrong. Her name still carried weight in boardrooms and banks, and doors opened easily once she chose to knock. Donors lined up, not because she flashed diamonds, but because she was a Lowell, and that was enough. But she no longer lived in marble halls. She chose a modest apartment, bus rides, and quiet days. From the outside, it looked like a fall. To Elena, it was freedom. The buzz around the office had been growing for weeks. Their firm had purchased a full table at the annual Lowell Foundation Gala, partly to support the cause, partly for the publicity. For Kevin and Jenna, it was the biggest night of the year, a chance to rub shoulders with executives and be seen in the right place. "This is where people notice you," Kevin said more than once, adjusting his cufflinks at his desk. "Networking gold," Jenna agreed, already planning her Instagram posts. "If I get a photo with the CEO, I swear I'll frame it." Even Denise, usually steady, admitted she was nervous about making the right impression. "You never know who's watching," she murmured as she tried on yet another dress in the mirror by the ladies' room. Elena only smiled and filled out her RSVP card without comment. She had no need to join the chatter. When the evening finally arrived, the coworkers entered the grand ballroom of the Fairmont together, dressed in rented tuxedos and carefully chosen gowns. They gawked at the chandeliers, the sweeping staircase, the sheer opulence of the place. "This is it," Kevin whispered, practically vibrating with excitement. "The big leagues." They found their company's table near the center of the room, proud of their seats. Jenna snapped photos of the sparkling crystal and the floral arrangements. Everything felt like a fairy tale until the lights dimmed. The host walked to the podium. After a round of welcomes and applause, his voice rang clear across the hall. "And now," he announced, "it is my honor to introduce tonight's keynote speaker. She is the founder of the Lowell Foundation, a woman whose vision and leadership have transformed countless lives. Please welcome Elena Lowell. The ballroom erupted in applause. Kevin froze. Jenna's phone nearly slipped from her hand. Denise's breath caught audibly in her throat. And then, on stage, walked Elena. She wore a gown of deep navy silk, simple yet commanding. Under the chandeliers, she seemed to belong in every inch of that glittering room. The same Elena who wore plain cardigans at her desk, who waited at the bus stop in the rain, was now commanding the stage with poise and power. Kevin leaned toward Jenna, his voice strangled. No way. That's her. But it was. Elena's speech flowed with warmth and authority. She told stories of programs that had lifted children out of poverty, of schools that had reopened with new funding. She thanked the donors with a gracious smile, her voice steady, magnetic. Every head in the ballroom seemed drawn toward her. At the coworkers' table, old words replayed in their minds, the bus stop jokes, the whispered remarks about her worn shoes, the snide guesses about her empty weekends. By the time Elena left the podium, the applause rolling after her like thunder, Kevin, Jenna, and Denise were staring at the tablecloth, unable to meet each other's eyes. Then Elena approached their table. Her smile was gentle, not triumphant. I didn't see you at the bus stop today, she said lightly. Did you all get a ride? Her words were soft, but they carried weight. A quiet reminder of every time they'd looked down on her, certain they knew who she was. The co-workers could only nod, cheeks burning, as the truth finally settled in. Monday morning arrived, gray and damp. The office felt different the moment Elena walked in. The usual chatter about weekend plans and traffic jams fell away. Conversations stopped mid-sentence when she passed. She placed her worn backpack on her desk as always, powered up her computer, and began typing. But she could feel it, the weight of eyes on her. Kevin was the first to break. He hovered near the edge of her cubicle, shifting his weight from foot to foot. Hey, Elena, he said, voice too bright, too careful. Listen, about Friday night. You were incredible up there. Really inspiring. I had no idea you were involved in something so big. Elena looked up with a polite smile. Thank you, Kevin. He nodded quickly, then retreated, cheeks flushed. Jenna tried next. She arrived with a coffee cup from Elena's favorite cafe, a place across town Jenna had never bothered with before. She set it gently on Elena's desk. I thought you might like this, she said, forcing a casual tone. On the house. I mean, my treat. You're amazing. You know that? I can't believe I've been sitting next to someone like you this whole time. Elena accepted the cup with grace. That's kind of you, Jenna. Denise lingered longest, clearly wrestling with her words. Finally, she came over, voice low. I'm sorry, she said. For, well, you know, the comments, the assumptions. We thought we knew who you were. She swallowed. We were wrong. Elena met her eyes. There was no anger there, only a calm sadness. We all make assumptions, Denise, but it's what we do after we learn the truth that matters. The rest of the day passed in a strange haze. Co-workers who had once brushed past Elena now greeted her warmly, offering her seats at meetings, holding doors open, laughing at her small jokes. But beneath the politeness, there was unease. They didn't quite know how to treat her as the quiet clerk with the cardigan, or as the woman in the silk gown commanding a ballroom. Elena noticed it all, but she didn't let it change her rhythm. She typed, filed, answered phones, and left right on time, walking to the bus stop as usual. And yet, as she stood in the drizzle waiting for her bus, a thought crept in. For all the revelations of the gala, one truth still lingered in the shadows of her life, one that had not yet surfaced. Jonathan. The office buzzed with its usual rhythm, the hum of printers, the clack of keyboards until the door opened. He stepped inside, and the room changed. Conversations stilled. Screens were forgotten. Even those who hadn't met him knew his face from magazines, business articles, and society pages. Is that? Someone whispered near the back. Jonathan Ashford. Another breathed. The Jonathan Ashford? Kevin muttered under his breath, jaw slack. Elena's spine stiffened. She didn't need to look up to know. She knew that voice before it came. Elena. Her name rolled off his tongue, softer than she remembered. She forced herself to meet his gaze. Jonathan Ashford, her estranged husband. Taller, sharper, but changed in a way she couldn't yet place. Around them, the office tilted into silence. Colleagues exchanged glances, wide-eyed. Only days ago, they had mocked her at the bus stop. Now, a man they could never hope to brush shoulders with was walking straight toward her desk. Jonathan's gaze didn't waver as he crossed the floor. His voice was steady but low, meant only for her and the dozen curious ears straining to catch every word. "I've been looking for you," he said. She folded her hands tightly, hiding the tremor. "Why now?" His jaw tightened. "Because I finally found you, and because I couldn't live another year wondering if you hated me beyond forgiveness." The old hurt cracked through her composure. "You let them destroy me, Jonathan. You didn't lift a hand, didn't raise your voice. You chose silence." "I did," he said without flinching. "And it cost me everything that mattered. You." A murmur rippled through the office. Eyes flicked between them, the story writing itself in every shocked expression. Jonathan's voice dropped lower, though the entire room strained to hear. "When you left, I thought you wanted nothing more to do with me, but I followed your work. Your charity. I made sure it was funded, quietly, through other names. Every project you've led, I've watched. Proud and ashamed at the same time." Elena blinked, her throat tightened. "That was you?" His eyes burned into hers. "Yes. And more than that, I cut ties. With my father. With the board. I walked away from their money, their manipulation, their pride. I didn't want to be the man who stood by while you were torn apart. I wanted to become someone you could respect again." She searched his face. The arrogance was gone. He looked like a man who had bled for his choices, who had carried regret like an open wound. From the corner, she heard Jenna whisper, "My God, all this time?" Elena's voice was low, trembling. "I don't know if I can trust you, even if I wanted to. The damage runs deep." "I know," he said simply. "Then let me prove it. Not in one grand gesture, but in every small one. I'll stand beside you this time. Your work, your voice, your life. If it takes months or years, I'll wait. Just don't send me away without letting me try." The office was quiet now, the kind of silence that stretched like glass. Every one of her coworkers, people who had dismissed her, pitied her, whispered cruelly, was watching her being chosen by the man they all recognized. Elena stood slowly. Her heart thundered, but her voice was steady. "Then we'll see. One step at a time." The relief that broke across Jonathan's face was unguarded, raw. For a moment, he looked nothing like the man in the magazines, nothing like the heir to a fortune. He looked like a man who had found the only thing he ever truly wanted. And the office, well, they would never look at her the same way again. The office didn't return to normal after Jonathan Ashford walked out that day. How could it? For years, her coworkers had looked down on Elena. They had driven by her at the bus stop, whispered about her frugal clothes, laughed behind her back. She was the quiet one, the overlooked one. But now, she wasn't invisible anymore. Kevin, once smug in his shiny car, couldn't meet her eyes without flushing. Jenna, who had tossed careless jokes into the air, turned polite and overly sweet, suddenly eager to include Elena in conversations. Denise, the one who had always acted like she was above her, softened most of all. Because now, they knew. They had seen the truth with their own eyes. Jonathan Ashford hadn't come for them. He hadn't come for status or appearances. He had come for Elena, searching, humble, pleading. He had laid himself bare in the middle of their workplace, where every pair of eyes and ears could witness it, and they had recognized him immediately. Not as some stranger, but as a man they'd read about, a man who lived in glossy pages of magazines. And he had walked right past all of them, straight to the woman they had overlooked. Elena kept her composure. She didn't boast, didn't rub their shock in their faces. She carried on with her work as though nothing had changed. Yet inside, something had shifted. For the first time, she believed that Jonathan had changed too. He had left his family's power games. He had funded her work quietly, not for credit but out of conviction. He had come to her with humility instead of arrogance. It didn't erase the pain of the past, but it opened a door she thought had been locked forever. One evening, as she stood at the bus stop again, she felt a shadow beside her. She turned, and Jonathan was there, not in a limousine, not with an entourage, just a man in a coat, standing in the drizzle waiting beside her. He smiled faintly. "If you'll have me, I'll wait here with you. However long it takes." The bus pulled up with a hiss, and for once, Elena didn't feel small or pitied. She felt seen. She felt chosen. And for the first time in a long while, she stepped forward into the future not alone. Because they had looked down on her once. But now they knew better. In the end, Elena's story reminded everyone that life can strip away wealth, comfort, and status, but it can never take away true strength. She showed that dignity isn't in the car you drive or the clothes you wear, but in the courage to keep going when the world underestimates you. Her coworkers learned that appearances can deceive, and that the quietest person in the room may carry the greatest story of all. If this real-life story touched your heart, please subscribe, like, share, and comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and your support helps us bring you more inspiring stories just like this one.